88.1 FM WHPR and Comcast Channel 20 to discuss all of the problems in this community and to find the solutions that will bring peace, prosperity, and love to our community so that we can finally stand tall as men and women controlling our own destiny. Now make sure to call in at 313-868-4336, 313-868-0351, and 313-868-0342. Remember, a community meeting with Detroit with your host, Brother Muhammad, every Sunday at 12 noon, right here on your community TV and radio stations.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just, I want to welcome all of you with the greeting words of peace from the God of peace. Allah, salam alaikum.
This conference is being recorded.
I want to say that we are very blessed today to have a man with us that is willing to, as the scripture says, that greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friend. Now, I've never met this man personally, but as a youngster growing up during the 60s, when I was in my teens, I can't say how much it meant to see this man in a role that was traditionally, television played a big part in media.
It's not coming through clear, son, man. You breaking up.
Okay, well, we'll do the best we can. To see a black man in a role that I saw Sean Connery, 007 and all of that. But to see a black man in a serious role like that during the 60s for young black men, as I know it did a lot for me. And I pretend that I know Dr. Cosby personally, but I know that all of my life, it was people like, just seeing black men that were dignified, and I know that he had some say-so over what he would allow himself to be portrayed as, and he did not come out in front of us and represent himself in an undignified way, and that meant a lot, and it still means a lot. And I'm not going to, he does not need a whole lot of introduction. I know that. Everyone that's in America, I'm pretty sure, has heard of or knows of Bill Cosby. And we are honored and just happy to have him on the other end of this line. Dr. Cosby, the microphone is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you. When I entered this world of entertainment, I was coming from Temple University my junior year, and I like to tell people that I was born again. Not of any particular religion, but I stopped taking on responsibility at age 5 and just went along doing things according to my natural intelligence, but not absorbing nor caring too. I was not an angry young boy. I was just as my 6th grade teacher said, William has a quiet way of not listening. Now, all of the psychological problems that existed later on in life, as I talked with my friend, the psychiatrist Alvin Poussaint, a great deal of it had to do with what my father had taken on in his life as a responsibility. And I remember my father saying very clearly, I don't want responsibility. And he said it, of course, while drinking alcohol with some friends of his. And I was a boy, and I really didn't understand what that meant or how it mixed with the fact that he and my mother had these arguments. Now, my mother's 4'11", my father's 5'11". My mother must have weighed around 114 pounds, and my father was 230. So my mother lost 3 battles, 3 fights. And these things I saw, and I was too small to be able to do anything except just scream and yell. And then I remember taking my mother out. She never went down, but I took her out to the backyard. We were living in the Richard Allen projects. Took her out to the backyard because we had the apartment on the first floor. And I laid her down, and she was exhausted. I don't remember her breathing, but I just remember her just being tired from the beating. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew something about, artificial respiration. Little boy.
Yes, sir.
And I remember people leaning around the fence looking at us, and I didn't care. I just wanted to take care of her. And I remember hearing people say, what a shame, this is a terrible thing, so forth and so on. And it never really registered with me that his behavior, the arguments about where is the money, and I remember my mother saying something about, your father gets robbed on the way from work. Because he was supposed to come home with a check. Instead, he came home loaded and smelling with alcohol. And of course, it got to a point where, as a young man, 16, so young boy, old boy, or whatever he was, the time came when I looked at him, because she kept letting him back in the house, which is key.
Yes, sir.
I was firstborn, and she kept saying to me, you're the man of the house now. And in those days, I knew I had to get a job. I knew I had to work, and I was very proud to bring her $2, $3 from Shining Shoes downtown Philadelphia. And had a shoe box and the polish and stuff. Come back with $2 or something. The Shine was only 15 cents in those days, but I was very proud to give it to her. And I'm saying all that because the young males and females who have been given notice by people who are community-minded, that drugs and the selling of drugs is not a business that we want to get into, because it is in fact that which has been put directly in the neighborhoods to diminish the potential of our intelligence. And when I hear young men and women say, well, if I wasn't selling it, somebody else would, I have to speak up. And I have to say, you're not thinking clearly. What you're saying to me is, I want money, and I don't care what this drug does. And in part, maybe you're right, but the addiction is such a strong thing. And if you are a person who monolithically thinking happens to be tough and black, then I want you to think about the people and how these drugs, have ruined so many lives, taken so many women off the track, taken so many men, young boys, off the track. Whether it's the drug itself and the addiction, or the selling and then murdering each other over that which I think is not enough money to take a life. Or take a life and then take your life out in prison. I look at the power of the black Muslim, and I know that in Baltimore, a friend of mine, they have a neighborhood, and they have signs that speak, my neighborhood, my responsibility. Our children, our responsibility. There are paradigms in the areas, and these paradigms have to be followed in order for us to succeed. What's in the way? Many, many things. I think we have to be careful of the food, and I think the growing of our own food. I think that making sure when we buy our meats, chickens, etc., that these things you read the small print of what's in it. I think that our children should be valued with more from within the home, and that you have to parent means to teach. And it may feel like a strain, but it has to happen. I'm talking specifically about the people who are having problems. I'm not talking about people who are managing their lives and they're in business or they're getting on with life. I'm talking about the people who are confused. People who think that the checks coming from the government, the places they're living in, that they can handle one family member to another, etc., that this is progress, but it isn't. Our minds are too sharp. We are too great to allow ourselves to think that if we underperform, we will be given things. It's amazing. And what was fought for, and now you look at what we fought to get, black mayor, black politicians, black superintendents of schools, black teachers, and things are failing. So how are you going to point someplace? The pointing needs to be done when we all get together. Those of us, not just the middle-income people, because that's a myth. The people, the middle-class black people, they're not doing it. Look, every time you see a program go up, and lower economic people go to a program, Those people are middle-income people. They're being paid. They're there to help. School teachers are middle-income people. Superintendents. They want to help. They're there to do. And by the way, a very wise man, a black policeman said to me as I was discussing, what can we do? And he said, Mr. Cosby, he said, programs have a sunset. And the children have to go home. The black Muslims have rules, the children. You go to their neighborhood and these children can play in the street. They can skip rope on the sidewalk. There is no worry. Because the men and the women get together and they make sure education is first. And that the behavior is first. The respect of family is first. There's no vile language, no disrespect, even of people who are not of their culture. And so why the people who are having trouble can't copy the paradigm that is working? You don't have to put anything on your body. You have to put things in your mind. And when I hear the criticisms, well, he's putting out dirty laundry, all that means to me is you haven't faced up to how horrifying it is that a young black male is on the sidewalk, what used to be, with his brains splattered, blown out by another young black male. And the anger and the disrespect and the loss of value by them is because the sun set and they went home and there was no parenting. Thank you.
I agree. Dr. Cosby, before I go to asking you any questions, I just wanted to, I had always wanted to say thank you to some of those who, now that I have a little age on me and something to compare what I'm seeing now and what I saw when I was a youngster, I just wanted to let you know that, I really appreciate you having scruples and morals in your career to even, I've heard people even make jokes about you tried to tell them to stop cursing and swearing and going on in their jokes and whatnot, and they, Eddie and I should say Mr. Murphy and Mr. Pryor, everyone knows them. And, but, just like what you said about alluded to about the drugs, how some of those, my brother, one of my brothers lost his mind when that Purple Haze and stuff first came out. And, he was the one I was closest to that I used to really look up to him. He was about 3 years older than me. And that was devastating to me to see my brother lose his mind and wind up in Norwalk, and he just never came back to himself.
Yeah.
And people say, don't sell it to him, somebody is.
Right.
And, I really understand what you're saying there. And it takes character. We must build enough character in ourselves to not allow ourselves to be more concerned with money than caring about our condition and our people and their condition. And you have exemplified that even in your, anybody can laugh because you stand up cursing and swearing. That it sounds funny to people. But to be able to get a laugh, as the old saying goes, I call you Dr. Cosby. That's not an honorary title. That's a degree you earned in the school system. And there's an old saying that a wise man can act a fool, but a fool can't act a wise man. And you make that so. I've seen this as I was growing up. I've never met you personally, but you had a hand in shaping my thinking, and I think on a right path. And I said all that to say I'm glad that I lived to and meet you and say to you, thank you, brother.
When I was at Temple University, I scored, I think I was the second lowest SAT score. Later on, I found out through his confession on a radio program, John Thompson, the former coach of Georgetown, basketball coach, we were talking about education. I said, I have the second lowest score in the history of SATs. And John Thompson said, well, I beat you. I said, oh, you're the one. John entered Providence College, and my score was 500 all overall. No, not 500 for the English, not 500 for the math, 500 overall. They put me in remedial everything. And I was as happy as I could be because I was 23 years old. And once I woke up to, if I don't get credentials, if I don't get an education, then I'm going to be doing something I don't want to do. Now, I'm very, very truthful about what I don't want to do. I don't want people to think that I snub my nose at whatever your job is, because the human being and what the human being carries in self, right now, when I meet that person, that's the important thing. And if you're pushing something that's got a broom sticking out of it, or if you're in charge of housekeeping, whatever your story is, if you are being what you are, and you're not hurting anybody, you're not destroying families, you're not ripping up ideas and ideals, fine. So I decided that the mistake I made in my life, and at that time at Temple, I had not attributed it to the fact that as a young boy, I had taken myself, because of the beatings I saw, because of my father's behavior, because of my mother's behavior, who kept allowing him back into the house, that what I lost self-esteem, I lost a viewpoint. There was nothing in the house. I do not blame my mother, because she had to double up, go to work as a domestic, come home, and she still followed the paradigm of the old days of cooking breakfast, making the sandwich, and then coming home and doing dinner, etc. But I still had that low self-esteem. I had no picture of the future. And my father had two brothers, both college graduates. One went on and earned 2 master's degrees, and they lived 2 blocks from the house. Neither one of them ever came to the house to look at my mother and say, we're your husband's brothers, and we know that he's off on a broken life, but we see we'd like to help your sons. We'd like to help you. None of them came to me and said, look, boy, this is what you're going to have to do. This is what, and we're going to stay on you. None. And one uncle has no children whatsoever. So what's important to me, when I was entering and had filed to try and get into college, I wanted to be a school teacher, a gym teacher, and the idea was 7th and 8th grade. I'm going to grab these young boys who have the same view, the same pictures that I had, and I'm going to work to make sure that they get a clear picture and a clear understanding of what life is like and about. And that has been my mantra from the day I was born again to now. I think Barry Bonds said it on Oprah Winfrey Show when he made a special guest appearance, and I was sitting next to Oprah. And Oprah said, well, do you two talk? And Barry said, well, if you're on the phone with Bill, you're not going to get much of a chance. And the audience laughed.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Cosby. I've learned that when all my life, I spent most of my time around brothers who were older than me. Well, most of my brothers, I was next to the youngest in my family. So all of my brothers and sisters except one were older than me. And so the older men, I learned that if you just let them share what they have with you, they used to tell me, a still tongue carries a wise young man. And, that's the one thing that one of the reasons was so happy to have you to come in here is because I'm aware that you're not the dullest knife in the drawer. I'm a long way from it. So, I wanted to show our people I'm a practicer of some of the things that I've been preaching to them. When you're in the presence of someone who is elder to you, and they want to share some of their life experiences with you, and in the way of knowledge and understanding, you should talk little and listen much. So believe me, I'm past the point of wanting to be seen and heard. I want what you seem to want, which is the betterment of all of us, our people. It's a big mistake that I think was made in the graduating class. I graduated from Jordan High School in Watts back in '68. And I observed this in most of the classes from elementary to high school. I didn't go to college. They always stood up and told the young people that the whole class, you are the future leaders. And as I matured, I recognized that you just alluded to earlier. I mean, everybody's not going to be a rocket scientist. Everyone is not going to be presidential material. Everyone is not going to be able to lead. If everyone is the future leader, who is the future follower? So we must learn that lesson that you just concisely put. We don't look down on one another. If we think that a maintenance is a job that's beneath us or has no dignity, people never think that they walk into a hospital and the floors are always shiny, the trash is always dumped. Everything is nice and you expect it to be that way, but you look down on the person who made it that way. And so no more of that. Here I'm talking to a man who has garnered millions of dollars, and yet he's talking to me, a stranger who has much of nothing. And he's talking to me as an older brother to a younger brother, or as a father to a son, because of his. I don't want to. You laid out your life and how it was rough, and instead of brooding about it, you looked at it, got the lesson from it, and said, "I'm going to do what for others what should have been and was not done for me."
The higher you step up, now I'm not trying to make a famous saying, but the higher you step up on the mountain, the better the views of what is going on below. And there are some people, when they graduate from college, or even while they're attending college, and it can be the historically black college or university, and they're buying into a culture which I think should be abolished, because it's one that is loaded with profanity. It's one that's loaded with words that take women out of their naturalness, and it's a disrespect of our race, and the sound has a sound and has a bravado that may make one feel good while listening to it. But if the children listen and hear a monolithic black, this is black and that's not black, if our children hear some of their peers who have problems, and it could very well be the same kind of thought that I had, low self-esteem, but kind of gang up and look at a kid who's gone about her way because in her home or in her mind she is studying, she wants to become a neurosurgeon, she wants to become a gym teacher, she wants to become an engineer. And we look, and those kids look, and they say, you're acting white, like this is something. First of all, you have to take these kids and you have to straighten them out. And the way to straighten them out, you just ask them questions. You say, well, what kind of white? Because I see where you live, and very few white people, have they come by your house? Have you gone by their house? Have you met them? Have you talked to them? Or are you just basing things on television or whatever newspaper? Because, you really have to understand that this education, the education, that which challenges the mind, that which says, I am ready. These are the people perhaps you'll be counting on later to educate your children. These are the people later that when you become a parent, those of you who are saying you're acting white, you may count on these people to, as a psychologist or psychiatrist, help your child think better. It's very, very important. And when we get to this point of the dirty laundry, it just seems rather ridiculous to me that you care that what I said brought attention to a group of people, and you're embarrassed because they heard me say things that only happen to be telling you where the bridge is out. If I was standing there waving to you driving in a rainstorm and I'm waving and you roll the window and say, what's the matter? I said, the bridge is out. I said, yeah, but I have to go to say, man, I'm telling you right now, the bridge is out. Well, you don't have to yell at me. You say, there's a better way to say it. Now, wait a minute. I'm telling you, the bridge is out. And it's very, very important for those people to rethink that if you know that I'm talking about your dirty laundry, then come on, let's do something about it.
That's right.
Let's stop and let's talk to our children. And those who have a philosophy of, I believe in no man, I believe in no God, no this, no that, whatever that mantra is, you can still stop them and talk to them, because I've heard enough stories told to me by elders who've said, you know, I heard the profanity and I just went up to a child and I said, can you just stop that language? It's not nice. And lo and behold, the child just sort of looked back and said, yes, ma'am, and went on. Mm-hmm. And so there are things we need to do. Detroit, that wonderful, wonderful city that I used to go into to entertain, and I had no problem selling out because people were working and they were doing and they had money. I brought Ray Charles into Detroit, and we played a theater for 4 days there. It was delicious and wonderful. Yeah. But I must tell you, looking at what is happening now, where the things that were said, and people were enjoying what they were doing. Some of them didn't need high school diplomas, and they were making good money. And then the cuts came, then the fall. Well, we're a people. We're still a people. So you have to stop and say, all right, they're making cuts, they're cutting this, they're cutting education, but that shouldn't stop us. If the school is closing, if you haven't been to City Hall to raise sand with the powers that be and stay on them and stay on them, if you don't vote, you've made a statement. I don't care what you do to me. And so it's important for us to realize who we are and what our fight is. But we can't win with people sitting on the side of the road talking about, don't say anything about our dirty laundry. You know, they're like my two uncles doing nothing.
Well, I'll tell you. I agree, Mr. Cosby. We sit up and we talk about everybody. We talk about the things that, for instance, that Caucasian people have done to us. And nobody minds when we talk about what they did to us. And, you know, but when one of us starts saying that one black that may be famous or may be well known, is when they doing something that's got no business, we shouldn't talk that, because that does away with our united front. But, you know, I was listening to pimps talk about their front. He'd have him a big roll of one and him a couple of $100 bills on the outside of it and make it look like he had a lot of money. Sometimes he's sleeping in his car and all this kind of thing. And all of the young men looking at that thought that he was somebody to emulate.
Sure.
where if people had just been honest and say, look, he just fronting. That's
There you
what
go.
it be about.
Where's the two uncles? Where are the two uncles to come and say, because we didn't have, I'm 75 years old, July 12th, but we just didn't have it. I'm not bragging about, I don't want people to think that I was the person who made that life. Look, I was just in it as a child, but I do know what it was. When we lived in that housing project, the idea was you move in, get your job, yourself together, you move up, and you move out.
Yes.
And the idea was that our children will go on and get a better education and be prepared for a higher point in life and a choice of whatever you want to become. I have guys who graduated from my high school in Philadelphia. A school which is a public school. You have to have a very high IQ. Then you take a test to get in, and if you pass, they put you in it. And before there were charter schools, these boys would go on, and it was integrated. These boys would go on to college, become doctors, lawyers, etc., etc. Well, it's very, very important for us to understand that your life is on track. And your children are on track. And all these images, these children don't have these pictures in certain neighborhoods. They don't have a feeling. And then to add to it, that if a child looks like he or she is studying or wants to behave, we're in trouble if we don't give these children a reason to continue to study. We've got kids now who are well, they're grown people, but they were really confused and hurt because in the workplace they were working around white people. And when I started saying what I was saying, these white people would come, yeah, Bill Cosby said so forth and so on. And these people would get embarrassed, the blacks get embarrassed. And they said, well, Bill Cosby is stereotyping the black people. I said, no. See, if you have sense about this, you're talking about the people who are in trouble. That's what you have to listen to. The people in trouble. The people who can't move. They're mentally stuck. Mm-hmm. I did a thing with Rochelle Riley at the wonderful college, the community college. And President Ivey let us have it. And we dedicated it to women. Now, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't planned. Two American-born black women got up and spoke one at a time, and they talked about the problems they were having and the school, and they just kept saying things. And there were reasons for why they were just tired and things were not working. A second woman got up and blamed her mother for her failure when she went to a university, that her mother had not prepared her for life at a university. And it had nothing to do with academics. Had to do with the fact that she met a boy and got pregnant. So she blamed her mother. And then she also stated she had 3 other children. Well, she went on to say she was going to bring her daughter, but her daughter couldn't make it, the car didn't, and all of these reasons. And then a black woman from Nigeria stood up, and she was not thumbing her nose. She said she's come to this country and her husband is also Nigerian, and that she works as a domestic, and her husband drives a cab. They have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
And then this woman went on to name the colleges that these boys and girls, daughters and sons, are either still attending or they've graduated. And these colleges are wonderful in and around Detroit. And the children are working. And it's a breath of fresh air that comes. And so when I said to this woman, please, I don't know how you can do it, but please pass your word on how you did it. We're trying to get people to think about how to save your children. This myth of the powers of the whites in office, it's a myth.
Yes.
It's not as powerful. Now, I will close with the following statement, which I'm sorry some people have a problem grasping. A man was fighting in the ring against another man. This is a true story, and I was watching on TV, and he was winning. He was winning all 7 rounds because he was moving in, sticking and moving, and bam, and he moved back out, and his opponent was waiting and waiting, and then this guy would bam, boom, boom. 7 rounds of boxing, in and out and sitting down. In the 8th round of this championship bout, he decided that he was going to knock this fellow out. This is true. I saw it. And he planted his feet and he started to slug, and the man caught him with a left hook. Boop! And this kid started going around the ring backwards, looking like Charlie Chaplin or somebody. And he got through the 8th round, but he was almost knocked out. And he sat down, and his manager, who was black, also looked at him. And he said, David, look at me, man. You can't do that. You can't do it like that. Please, just go back to what you were doing. You were winning. Bell rang, and for some reason, David decided, no, make you play. And he planted his feet, and he got caught again. Well, there he goes, round the ring, up and down, holding on, dodging, covering up, and the man luckily couldn't catch him. Mm-hmm. The bell rang, and he slumped onto the stool, and his manager said it, and it has been with me ever since. And I even called the manager and thanked him for saying that. He threw the water from the sponge into David's face, and he said, David, listen to me. It's not what he's doing to you. It's what you're not doing. Now, to me, that is as clear as can be. I'm saying, if you hear politicians talking about we're going to have to cut this and cut that and cut that, what is it you're not doing? You're not going up, you're not demonstrating, you're not showing your power, you're not boycotting, you're not coming back home, you're not voting, you're not putting your children in a position of, okay, your school is bad, and the teaching stinks, and the books, okay, where are your parents? Got auntie so-and-so and uncle such-and-such and cousins. They live right around the corner. We're going to have a meeting. This is a family thing because our people, black, when colleges, before they became colleges, they used to be called normal. And if you talk to people in the 80s or something and they're from the South, they will gladly tell you about 4 corners of a 1-floor building, dirt floor. And that's where they had all of the grades, and teachers would teaching the middle and the four corners. And these people, David Thatcher, went on to live in Chicago, went from Chicago, was going to go to a college there, but wound up at Morehouse College later on to become the chief surgeon general. These stories. But then there are these stories also where children don't know who Medgar Evers is. That we had Black History Month. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has a fantastic book out on black inventors. People should have that in their living room if they can afford it. It should be on their table. Children, instead of hitting the computer and playing some zwingy thing that has nothing to do with education. I don't mind a little recreation now and then.
Well, that's true. But, you know, as the scripture even says, a little folding of the hands is okay.
Yeah.
But we who are trying to play catch-up, I mean, all of the civilized world has bypassed us and moved on, and we still can't even call ourselves together for a meeting about the betterment of our condition that we see all around us. We live in blighted communities all over America, and we wait and wait and wait on someone to come up there and do what we have the ability to do for ourselves.
But this is Detroit. But I want you to know that there's New Haven. Small.
Yes, sir.
Populous. Huh?
And it's a thriving community. You sure right.
But it's thriving on the white-hand side.
Yes.
On the black-hand side, there's killings. A friend of mine by the name of Hill runs a funeral parlor. He has taken on the fight to get the young males to stop carrying guns, dealing the drugs in New Haven, just in their own community. There's no outreach. They're killing each other. And the school system, the people have taken on and they're educating their youth, but not enough to take on all of the children. There are men who get it, who understand the message, but somehow they go back to the way it used to be for them, and they wind up going back into jail. And here's what I'm saying. There are certain things like the black man can now, because of the law, if caught with a certain amount of drugs, selling drugs, something, will get the same amount of time as the white man. Now this sounded like a victory. Maybe. But the idea is, why go to jail? Why commit a crime?
That's right.
So, if your son, I'll just close with this. I hope it's all right. There's a book, Earl Lloyd, who was the first African American to score a basket in the then NBA, which had just integrated. He has a book. And in his book, he talks about, as a young boy, he came home and his mother looked at him and she said, where have you been? And the idea is that he stammered, and so I was just, because he knew where she was going with this. And he said, well, I was just out there. She said, but where were you? And he said, I was on right out, I was near the house. She said, And who were you with? He said, I was with, we were just talking. She said, I told you about hanging out with those boys. He said, yeah, but Mom, I wasn't doing anything. And his mother said, if you're not in the picture, you can't be framed.
Yep.
And if we can teach our children the value of life, the value of themselves, the value of being prepared, the value of education moving up, then those things within the neighborhood, we will have more entrepreneurship. And through entrepreneurship, we hire more of our own people. You go in a Chinese restaurant, and I'm not talking anti-Chinese. You go into a Chinese restaurant, you don't see a black waiter.
That's right.
And so we can hire our own people, and it is respected and expected. But this thing about who we are and the myth of how powerful these white people happen to be in power, it's absolutely wrong. They're in power because it's not what he's doing to you, it's what you're not doing.
I bear witness.
All right, then.
Dr. Cosby.
Thank you.
Dr. Cosby.
I'm here.
So, I have to get your thoughts on our president.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to know your thoughts on
Okay.
President Obama.
This is the first, and it is my belief that he tried to put things in order by using Harvard, because it's supposed to be the great and the whatnot and so forth and so on. And so he is a man who was chosen at Harvard Law School. And when he picked people, he thought he had friends. And he thought he had very intelligent people. And he also thought, knowing the racism in this United States of America, that he could also be a person who could be thought of as a black person, but not show any sign of being the person to be feared that the racist people always draw us up to be. The Nat Turner kind of thing. Or, the myth that they have that once we get in, everybody's going to come and sleep in the Lincoln Suite, and black people will be in the put, and that person, and so that's what the Tea Party people were having, and still are having their fits about. It's their own minds that put them in that position, but it's also, as the President of the United States, I think he took too long to try to show. And the more he tried, the more they reacted in ways that were really not professional, but they couldn't care less, because they looked at the color of the man, and these white people were not used to it. And so what happened was, finally, we're coming down to this point, and I know that this man knows now. There's no more walking lightly, treading lightly. That I do believe he's going to come on this time, not because he wants to be thought of as something, but because he knows he owes this United States of America a better behavior, and a man who will take that office and say, I am the president, and I'm going to make sure that your misbehavior Mr. So-and-so who's supposed to be in charge of finance and so forth and so on. You're not doing the correct thing. Because I do believe that if you look at the President of the United States, we also have to look at our black mayors, our black controllers, our black superintendents. Where are their jobs sitting? What are they doing? Why are they not having the responsibility? What happened to the money in our cities?
Yes, sir.
How can you continue to say, okay, we're going to play the lotto and it'll be good for the roads and the old people and better schools, and the way you make better schools is to shut down half of them? So we've got to, it's in the home. The black Muslims, I mean, one of the stories that it just made me laugh. I felt so good. In Washington, D.C., where you're Jordan High School, right?
Yes, sir. I was in Jordan. Mm-hmm.
And that wonderful story about the drug dealers and the Protestants looking out and seeing the drug dealing going on. And who did they call? They called the black Muslims. And there's this wonderful stories in the Washington Post about these black Muslims. No guns. And the van was parked, and I think it was about 2 or 3 of them. And one of them, I think his name might have been Shorty or something like that. One of the Muslim, nickname. I don't know if he called him Brother Shorty or what, but he walked up to this guy who had a shotgun, this fellow, and he said, brother, you can't do this here anymore. And the man pulled out a shotgun. He said, and who's going to stop me? He said that the Muslim moved even closer and said, you're not selling this here anymore. And the man left. Now, what happened to Jesus? What happened to Jesus and the power and God's Protestant power and the belief? And these people have to call someone from another culture and another belief, partially, to do what they ought to be doing. It's not what he's doing to you, it's what you're not doing. There should have been Protestants. That's your neighborhood around that van. If, and I know you asked me about the president, but I've said what I have to say. If the shooting of the boy, the shooting of the little girl jumping double dutch and can't play somewhere because some boys have guns and there's no practice range, so they don't know what the ham fat they're doing when they pull the trigger and the bullets go astray and crack the brains of a 7-year-old child, hit the lungs of a 4-year-old who's supposed to be playing in peace. Safe passage is what we need, but these people doing these shootings, and then people know who did it and won't tell.
Won't say a word.
But a cop with a man spread eagle across the car will be addressed by strong numbers in the neighborhood. What you going to do with him? There's confusion. There are reasons. There are excuses. But there's a sickness with some youth. And the only way you're going to heal is to pinpoint that which is causing it and begin to deal with it. The only way.
You're right. And there's just no way that we are going to ever heal ourselves if we're not willing to be honest about how sick we are.
More people
That's true.
in law enforcement, more people in community activity say the same thing all across this United States. And that is, I want to get to these kids before they have to put on an orange jumpsuit.
Well, in this society, the system, everything is a money-making venture. And so as we look at the things that trouble us, is plenty of people make money off of our suffering, off of
Yes.
our condition.
Yes.
I have nothing but respect for anyone who is part of an organization that would try to uplift us. What I don't condone is making you living off of helping us up, as organizations have become. Because then once you make a living at it, and this may step on a few toes, but we all got to reassess our positions here. If I'm going to make money off of the uplift of my people, then will I want to put myself out of a job? I mean, if I get them uplifted, then I ain't got that money coming in from doing that. So we have to be careful as to what we decide to do it. A doctor, and I don't have nothing against doctors. I go to doctors. But when we make medicine a business, then and get our livelihood off of it, do we really want to see people well?
Sometimes, when you think about it, if you're supposed to give a service and you see that the people coming to you are not really taking care of themselves, it's a moment where you have to get rid of your idealized thought and face the practicality and face the truth. You've got to deal with people who are what they are.
Yes.
I'm talking doctor to patient, because at some point you didn't quit smoking.
Yes.
At some point you didn't pay attention to the fact that you shouldn't be drinking. Point to you shouldn't be having milk, you got a lactose problem. Point to, look, you keep eating this grease and things are going to clog. And then, of course, to have something wrong and think you can just wish it away. It's a little pain, and and the next thing you know, you're in surgery. Now you've got these doctors, and I've said this to doctors individually, psychologists. What are you giving these people these pills for? What are you giving them to sedate them and make them feel better? You haven't treated the problem.
Yes, sir.
Bring people in, and for me, the healthiest medicine for individuals who are in trouble is responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Now, that's generalizing at its best, but let's give it a dose. Doctors, by the time you are in that hospital, you may have 2, 3 doctors for whatever ails you. And come to find out, one is cardiovascular, the other one is around the kidney, and the other one is someplace, and they don't talk to each other. So you wind up with 5, 6 different pills that you have to take, and you don't read the small print. You know that this person called the doctor prescribed it for you. These doctors don't talk to each other. They have no idea what the other one is giving, and whether the medication counters that which the other one prescribed, and when you mix them together, causes a growth problem within the human being's body. So, death takes them out.
Yes, sir.
It's important that in the meantime, the human beings protect themselves. You're married to somebody, or you're living with somebody, or if it's your mother, your aunt, or somebody, check these medications. Look them up. Get a friend of yours to look them up on the internet and see if the side effects happen to be so forth and so on and such, so that auntie is not swelling, so that auntie is breathing better. Because sometimes, you can't just leave it up to people to take care of you.
That's right. Especially when money is involved.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Cosby, I want you to know that I don't have you on no timetable here. I invited you here, and as far as I'm concerned, we need to hear what you have to say. Visiting with a man that has such a diverse background and so many areas, when it comes to knowledge, I feel like it's like you brought up about when I asked you about the president, and you started sharing some other knowledge with me. It's like going to a supermarket, as far as I'm concerned. Listening to you, I go to the supermarket. I go up and down aisles all of the time to see what's there.
Yes.
I want to know what's there. If you're willing to share what's there, I want to know.
Well, but I'm going to have to leave.
Okay.
But no, I'm going to have to leave. But there is something. I don't know what it was, but it just recently. Oh, I was in Kansas City, Missouri, with a friend of mine, Eric Wesson, and Eric took me to a high school, and I talked to the conglomeration of different schools they busted children in. And I don't bite my tongue when I talk to these kids, because I want them to understand love. I want them to understand from me what my uncle should have been saying to me. And came a point where I said to them, when somebody gives you the answer to something, I want to hear you respond. And if it's positive, I want you to live by that. Because I do think we're not going to just be satisfied with a grade of 90. Not if you know you can do better. So we want 100. That's what we want. 80, 90, no, won't make it. 100. Now here come the woofers. Well, then not everybody can, but if you can honestly say, I tried to understand everything, and I didn't understand it. Stop. It's not what he's doing. It's what you're not doing. Teach your children. If you have a problem, if you don't understand it, if I know my child, it's impossible for you to not visit the teacher of your child who spends 5 to 6 hours, 5 days a week with your child. It's impossible for you to know what your child is getting in terms of an education. Therefore, there's no reason. Maybe you're holding down the mythical 4 jobs and you can't, and so forth and so on. And I say myth because what's the percentage of people and parents and even single parents of holding down 4 jobs? You can't do anything then. But you could call your cousin. You could call your brother. You could call your aunt. You could have your mother or your father. Somebody's got to go to the school and represent you and then bring it on home. The teacher will be excited. The teacher will also know that there's a parent, and there are parents who want to know. Therefore, the job I have taken on has some value. And pay attention. And when a teacher makes you feel that you're not educated enough to talk to them, put yourself in on a level of, look, I really respect myself, and I want you to respect me. I'm asking you to explain something. Don't use it as an excuse not to go. This is about your child and your future. And what's important not even more so, but it's the value you want to put on your child. You can't be used to seeing that little white coffin being carried and people sobbing and crying. You can't be used to seeing somebody you know on the news crying and saying, he was a good boy. You say, well, okay, but why didn't you know he had a pistol? Why didn't you stop him? Because it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And this marijuana is more dangerous than people believe. Oh yeah, it's recreational and it makes me feel good, but I don't know too many people who, after smoking, who had great ideas, got up and started to execute them. Freezes your legs.
Yes, sir.
And it gives you thoughts, but you're not really clear on what you have to do when that weed is in you.
That's true.
Now, there are some people who can function with it, just like there's some people who can drink a whole fifth of bourbon and negotiate and just look high, not drunk. But then there are some people, if you give them 2 shots of something, you please put them in the back seat of the car horizontally.
Yes, sir. That's true.
So we have all kinds of things. What I'm after is I don't want to see these brains on the side. I don't want to see these accidental hits on our children. I want our children to have safe passage. I want our elders to be respected as opposed to somebody snatching the purse, taking her medication money. Because you got to buy some drugs from somebody who won't give you any credit, nor when you report that there were too many seeds in it, give you your money back.
Well, I'll tell you, these are all things that we're going to have to, I want this line of communication that, if it pleases Allah and yourself, Detroit has been a wellspring of hope for me. I won't get into much detail about it, but like this radio and television station that's owned by Mr. R.J. Watkins, who has opened his doors to our people, and at sometimes, for lack of a better word, his expenses sometimes is he could bear. But he kept those doors. He has kept those doors open for us to have these kind of discussions. And he has a kind of history like yourself. You know, you don't have to tell us how much you care about us when we look at how you've presented yourself and how you've made for people look at the television and they look at you in the public eye and how you conduct yourself. Generally, people, they look at us all. And so that's very important. That television is image. But Mr. Watkins, he opened up his station to us. If he's listening now, I wish he would just say a few words to you and introduce himself to you. Because there's a lot of things that I want to say, but I don't want to put you in a position where, you know how we use the term, we don't want to front nobody. A lot of times we put people on the spot because they're in the public eye and feel like we are what you call imposing. Those things that I will not say, because I never want you to feel that we are trying to put you on the spot as our guest, and I don't do that. I don't.
Well, so far I haven't been threatened.
No.
Is Mr. Watkins available?
I hope he is. He's been he hasn't
Excuse
been
me, Senator
well.
Man.
But,
Mr. Watkins?
Just a moment. We just had him. We just lost him. Hold on just a moment.
Okay. I always like to bridge it. You know, Mr. Cosby, you are a respected, intelligent member of our people that we should all be proud of. You have had a history of trying to help us, telling us even the advice you gave our people that they didn't have, you know, we didn't have sense enough. I say we. You know, oftentimes being poor makes us envious, jealous, and in certain cases rightly so. But instead of being envious to the positive sense of it, in the positive way, that if I envy what you're doing,
There you go.
then I should want to try to emulate what you are doing.
There you go.
Excuse me, Senator Man.
Not try to pull you down because I'm not up.
Uh-oh.
Excuse me.
Mr. Watkins?
I'm here.
RJ, are you there? Mr.
I'm
Watkins?
here, sir.
Yes, we have Dr. Bill Cosby on the line, and I know you wanted to so just meet him, and because the brother's so down to earth, man, sometimes I'm forgetting who, you forget that he's Bill Cosby, you know.
Mr. Cosby, it's a pleasure to have you on our station, and we want to thank you, Senator Man, for putting this together. Mr. Cosby, you're a big fan of ours, and it's a pleasure to have you on our station. I want to thank you, sir, for taking time out to share some of the wisdom that you have. And I love that phrase you just said, if you're not in the picture, you can't be framed.
Yes.
Wow. Mind-blowing, sir. Mind-blowing.
Yeah, that was Earl Lloyd's mother.
Okay.
Yes, so you can, and you can just hear it. I mean, this is wisdom.
Yes.
It's stuck in this teenage boy's head, man.
Yes.
Because Earl is writing this as a grown man now.
Mm-hmm.
So that we must never be afraid as elders to say things. It may not register yet. They may have something else they want to try. But later, it becomes the truth. Well, there's a saying, the truth shall set you free.
Mm-hmm.
But first it'll make you mad. But you know your last name Watkins, if I may.
Yes, sir.
There was a company, Watkins.
Well, the medical company, the medicine man. Watkins.
Yeah, well, they had a liniment,
Yep. Yeah, Watkins, yeah. Mm-hmm.
cough medicine,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
and the shampoo.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in the projects, and the Watkins man.
Would come by.
And it was my job, because it was, I think it was 50 cents a week or something for whatever he gave us. You know, my mother bought the stuff, but when she didn't have the money, it was my job to say she's not home. So I hope you are not related to those people.
I've called them. We've talked a little bit about trying to bring that product back to Detroit. It's in Detroit, tell you the truth. It's just still around. But we talked about promoting that product on TV 33 and WSPR radio. But I'm familiar with what you're talking about, sir. But no, we're not part of the family.
Oh, okay. So then I'm very happy to meet you. Because I don't know how much my mother died owing. And then when you put 7% interest on something, because I'm also from the day and time, man, where I remember clearly, Mr. White. I'm telling you these things because you're an entrepreneur, and that's respected because it means that you hire people.
Yes, sir.
And this is what we need more of. And we need more people to not just look at you as somebody who's, well, we're going to have a dinner and Mr. Watkins is going to donate $25,000. No. I remember, man, I was layaway.
Yes.
Layaway.
Yes, sir.
And we were just flat out broke. Because Dad wouldn't behave and Mom was working as a domestic and I was shining shoes. And I also don't understand when I see a lot of these comics who come up and they say, you know, we were poor and didn't know it. And my mouth falls open. How can you not know that you don't have anything? I mean, the first people who tell you something is your mother. Is your mama can say, I don't have it. So anyway, I wanted to make an impression because there was a top coat that was the style was quite popular in Philadelphia, and it was called the 6-button Benny with the belt in the back. Well, everybody talked about having one, and I couldn't afford it. We had no money for it. I think the coat might have cost $18.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down to this store and I gave the guy a dollar, and he gave me a receipt. And he lay away, and he laid the coat away. And I would take friends of mine. I said, come on, man, I'm going to show you my 6-button Benny. I never got the coat out, but I took a lot of boys down there to show them. And they talked about it. He says, you know, Car's got a 6-button Benny. And he showed it to us. And the man started to get tickled with me. And he said to me, here's your $1 back. He said, you bring your boys in there anytime you want to. I'll show them the suit you got here, too.
Advertisement, no sir.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
But the joy of our humor and being who we are and what we are, it's still there, and it's very, very rich.
Yes, sir.
It's rich in the people who came from devastating situations in the South to move north to without a high school diploma, begin to work for the car companies.
Yes, sir.
And make good living. Send their children to college. And that work ethic somehow began to slide when those drugs came in. And our boys went to war. And they gave them more drugs when they were in the Army. And they left the women. They came back, and that situation that the women were given the drugs, the young boys given the drugs, they began to have reasons and excuses. And we've got to dig out from under that like a huge snowstorm.
Yes, sir.
But we got to dig out, and I want to thank you, Mr. Watkins, for opening the mic for whatever number of people, because another piece of humor, I was called, and I was holding the phone, and they went through about 9 or 10 commercials. I said, boy, this station is making a ton of money. And then I have noticed we've been talking for about 3 days now, and I've been talking 2.5 of the days, and there hasn't been one commercial left. So I want to thank you on behalf of Jello Pudding. I've got to run because I don't know why, but I've just got to run.
Okay. Well, we'd like to invite you to the studio, sir. We'd like to invite you to the studio with the Son of Man. When you're in town, come by, visit the studio, and just get on television with us and talk to the people. We would love for you to come by next time you're in with Dr. Ivory or Mims.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you come into the studio and be a part of TV 30 for me.
Yeah, and I think that word Wayne has done an awful lot for people in our community.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, buddy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, let me run, please, because I've got to do something, I think.
Son of Man,
But
thank you,
don't
sir.
forget my other wonderful statement.
Dr.
It's
Cosby.
not what he's doing to you, it's what you're not doing.
Dr. Cosby.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that area code is 310. Is that Compton? You out in Compton?
No, not yet. No, Compton, I think Compton is a different area code. This 310 is in the Pacific Palisades.
Okay. All right.
And this is our home,
Yes, sir.
but it's not our home. Our home is in Massachusetts.
Yes, sir.
This house, Ennis was staying here.
Yes, sir.
And this house, over the doorway, is a name, Ennis. And it's very interesting because sometimes I look up and see it, and sometimes I don't look at it at all, but not on purpose. And we have to look at our lives in this way. We have to look at our lives in terms of people who've lost their children, their elders, their parents. And we've got to value ourselves more. And Mr. Watkins' story should be one of many. Young people who are not afraid. And we're graduating an awful lot of black women from colleges. And we've got to teach them that instead of not for profit, let's go for profit.
Yes, sir.
The wonderful story in Detroit, that DVD of people growing their own vegetables and turning it into a business. It's wonderful. And there are more things that can happen. Entrepreneurship.
Yes, sir.
And stop feeding our children or allowing them to go on their own for breakfast. Child got some money. They're not going to buy, quote unquote, wholesome, healthy food unless you put it to them and tell them they must.
Yes, sir.
They're going to buy sweet. They're going to buy flour with plenty sugar. Can't leave little children who not only don't know better, but won't do better. We're parents. Thank you both. Mr. Watkins?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to call the other Watkins people. Please tell them that I intend to pay them.
I'll tell them, sir, in the event that I meet them and we are related, I will tell them, bill paid in full, see me.
I appreciate that. Then I won't be afraid to open the door anymore. Because I remember the man's first name. His name was Frank.
Right?
Frank. He rang the doorbell. 919 Apartment A, Parish Place. Rang the doorbell. And my mother went in the hallway, and I said, she's not home. She said, you know when she'll be back? I said, you know when you're broke, nobody can go on vacation. No, she went to Florida. No. I don't know what time she'll be back.
No, I'll tell Uncle Frank the bill's paid.
I think Uncle Frank is on the other side of the dirt.
Yes, sir.
And watch your mouth. I didn't say he was Uncle Frank. I know what you're implying.
No, sir.
But you're talking about my mother, man.
No, sir.
I may have to take your station over to Comcast. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Again, I thank you, brother.
Thank you for me.
I want you to, I'm going to have them, if it's okay with you, from time to time, I would like you to come back and talk with us. And even if you're not invited, you always invited. If you just have something you want to share with us, you come on. Or did he leave?
I think Bill Cosby's gone, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you, sir, man. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, brothers and sisters, I wanted you to hear some of the. You don't have to all of the time. Even if you don't agree with everything that elder brother or sister have to say, you should learn to listen to what they have to say. Because, you pick up, just like I said, you go to a supermarket. You don't have to buy everything in there, but it's nice when you go into the market and there's so many things to choose from. To listen to what they have to say. Because, you pick up, just like I said, you go to a supermarket. You don't have to buy everything in there, but it's nice when you go into the market and there's so many things to choose from. So, I'm going to, I thank you, Brother Jamar, for arranging that, and I hope that you will contact them again and thank them and invite them back and make sure that he knows that he has an open invitation here. That any time that we are on the air, that he can just come in and say whatever he feels that needs to be said to our people. I would like to, maybe he puts you in touch with some of the others. For I want those of us who, those of our people who care and could help. It's not, understand something, it's not money that we lack. It's the wisdom of what to do with that tool that we lack. You notice, as long as he was talking, I shut up and let him talk. Why invite the man here if you don't want to hear what he has to say? I learned that from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, you should not invite me if you don't have time to listen to me. If he would have, I'd have kept him in here. As long as he wanted to share with us, then that mic would have been open to him. Because I was even actually a little nervous because I've been knowing of him ever since I was in the 60s, since I was 14 years old.
I'm 61 now. And I saw him on television all of the time. And so it was nice to be able to just say thank you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I never was able to just say to him, thank you. They had us so spooked up. I didn't know you could call the messenger and talk with him if you wanted to. They had us, thinking that we wasn't fit to talk to the messenger and all that kind of thing. That's why I give out my phone number and tell my followers, you ain't got to be intimidated to talk to me. You talk to me. I'm a human being just like you. And that's the way we have to do away with the old way of leading people. He that is greatest in understanding and knowledge among us, then that one should act as a servant. Not as no, my daddy, the only time I really feared my daddy was when I was doing something he had no business. I don't want you to think that I grew up being afraid of my daddy. I was afraid to displease him. Because if he wasn't fussing, he was the easiest, gentlest person to get along with. He was just stern when it came to raising us. He demanded that I obey and do what he or my mother said. And if I didn't, I knew what I was going to get. And so, I'm just thankful to Allah that I could surprise you with Dr. Cosby. As you can see, he's very easy to talk to. I look forward to us getting to know one another. The first step to getting together is you must be willing to talk with one another. If you can open up lines of communication to one another, then all of the things that keep us divided, those lines of communication will give us a chance to eliminate that. That's why I like to talk with the religious people from different schools of thought. And if we, you heard, who was it? Was it Eddie Murphy that was talking about how Mr. Cosby came to him trying to get him to stop cussing, and he went to Richard and asked him, he was kind of telling a joke about it. But, obviously it was true. Now he's tried to talk to others in his arena to try to get them to, hey, look, man, you don't have to do all that to be funny. You don't have to make a garbage dump out of our children's minds. But at the same time, he did it as one of their peers. Do you understand? And he did it as a success in that arena, and to show you that he was proof that you didn't have to do that. Do you understand? Now, if they didn't accept that, well then, okay. But they can't say that he didn't know what he was talking about. It's just, so that's what I do in religion. I mean, it's not an affront to it's like people, they get upset with me. I think we better get into scriptural discussion mode here. Unless someone had something they wanted to say about the community meeting portion of this. I hope that all of you got something out of what Dr. Cosby had to say. We will always try to bring to you people who are successful that we think, that we feel care something about us and our condition. I only can speak from what I have observed, It's just like with what Dr. Cosby said about President Obama. You know, yes, he started a little slow. And that was by design. That was, to me, it was a wise thing to do. Because, you know, even though he was put in there by a majority vote of Caucasian people, he understood that, you know, even many of the Caucasian people did not want a black man in that position. And so to go in there like a bull in a china shop, you know, it was the right thing to do. Not to go in there just gangbusters and whatnot. I'm the president and you're going to do what I said. No, it don't work like that. His temperament, I think, was good. And, you know, I think that now, I mean, people were asking him, why don't you tell Congress off? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do because that's not the way. That will not be in the best interest of the nation. If he let his ego get in the way, then he would, the nation would be done a disservice. But by putting his ego aside and being willing to accept insults sometime, to be able to be big enough. I mean, you're already the president, so there's nothing to beat on your chest about. You don't have to do that. Now, are you really up to that? You know that you have a schism here just by your presence in that office. Now, will you increase that, or will you figure out a way to try to do away with that schism and bring some unity to what you said, that this is not the Republicans or the Democrats, but it's the United States of America? Now, if you mean that, then your goal should be to unite the people and not divide them. Do you understand? And so he has always kept that in mind. It seems to me that he has. And you know, if I had that job, I don't think I could have done it any differently, or would have done it any differently than he did. You know, which was, hey, you know, I mean, you see, you know, if the Ku Klux Klan come in here, I'm going to treat him like I want to be treated. Not like he treat me, but like I want him to treat me. And if you do that, if we do that, that's the way of peace. You see? So we're going to take a station break. I just got a e-message here from the boss. He told me that I need to get off the way, and if we're going to change, that we need to do a station break, and we do, and then we will come back and talk with you, and probably take some phone calls, and we can hear from you and let you tell us what you think. So, Brother Hodo, let's take a quick 3 or 5 minute break. I'll tell you what, I got something that I want you to hear from the co-star of the series of I Spy with Robert Culp. He's passed away now. He passed away at age 79. But he had some things. He was interviewed about Bill Cosby, and he had some very positive things. He's a Caucasian now. He had some very positive things to say about working with Dr. Cosby. Brother Hodo, do you want me to start this now, or do you want to do a station ID first?
Well, let's do the station ID first.
Okay. Do the ID. I'll let you do it this time.
You're watching UHF TV 33, Detroit Highland Park.
Okay.
1 WHPR, the Highland Park.
Are we back? Brother? Okay.
Same way, we never changed. He trusted me totally with regard to story. And all that that entails and all that that embodies, whether it's my writing or somebody else's writing. And I trusted him utterly, obviously, about the comedy. And the only place that we ever stuck assiduously to the script was when I wrote it. He never changed a syllable that I wrote. Because he assumed, and correctly, that I had eliminated all the missteps and that I wanted it to be written, spoken that way, that those were the words that would tell the story in the shortest possible span. So that was the basis of our professional working relationship. On top of everything else, how shall I put this? We liked each other enormously. We tried to socialize at the beginning. We tried to take our wives out to the ballet, to dinner, and so forth. By the time we were doing that, and had the evenings to do it, which were rare, when we weren't totally exhausted, we had come to a language of shorthand, a shorthand language, which was based on, like hundreds of punchlines of little personal, meaningless little jokes, which weren't funny to anybody but us. Our wives, both of them, were so offended when we would instinctively lapse into this jargon and leave them out. They were so offended that we had to give up socializing because we would both go home and get hell from our wives for leaving them in the ladies' room or something, There's been an awful lot with regard to that chemistry, which was unique and never to be replicated. A lot of it is written about my teaching Bill how to act. First of all, Frank Silvera taught and coached Bill from the get-go, from the very beginning. There was another fellow whose name I can't recall, but Frank Silvera came in. Frank Silvera was a monumentally good actor and a teacher. He came in and sat on the side of the set and coached Bill. He taught Bill how to act, if anybody did, other than Bill Cosby. I never told him anything, ever, except for one thing. At the very beginning, I said one thing. If you try to fill the emotion now with no preparation and no background and no breathing, with no knowledge of what you're doing, if you try to fill the emotion, you will fall flat on your face. Don't bother. Think the thought. That's enough. Think the thought that the character is thinking at that moment, when you know perfectly well what that is, because it's right there in front of you. It's in the script. Just think the thought. The rest will follow. And that's what he did, and that's what happened.
course, that has nothing to do with technique. And that came to him because he was that fast. He's the brightest man I ever knew. And God knows he has the fastest mind that I ever run across in anybody. When it came to race relations, when it came to the fact that there were stations in the South that wouldn't carry us, I said, you want to do anything about that? He said, our statement is a non-statement. That's what it is. And that's where it lies, and that's what's going to make it funny. That's what make it possible for us to be funny and have fun and get laughs and go free. We can't do it any other way. That's the way it should be. That's the way it is. And let them make of that whatever they see fit. It'll work. It just takes a little bit of patience. That's out of Mr. Cosby's mouth. And I said, dead on, partner.
I felt greatly honored to have one so well known and beloved by many to come and visit with us for a while. We hope to have him again and many more of our people. Let me tell you something. If you want to have friends with anyone, whether wealthy or poor, you must first show yourself to be friendly. The best way to make friends is by being one. You understand? I want all of us to just like when he was talking about people getting upset because he did what we call airing our dirty laundry. If you're not willing to talk about the faults that you have or your people have publicly, then why are you out in the public talking about the faults of other people?
Getting upset because he did what we call airing our dirty laundry. If you're not willing to talk about the faults that you have or your people have publicly, then why are you out in the public talking about the faults of other people? If you can stand up and be honest about what was done to you by others, then be just as forthright and forthcoming when you get someone on trial. Ain't that what we complained about, how white people did us? They bring us in court when they think we have offended them, and we called it lynching us. But when one of them did something to us, they would look the other way. Well, okay. If it is wrong, if they do it to us, then it's equally wrong if we do it to them. Do you understand? That's what righteousness will dictate to you. And if that is not the dictates that you are following, you are deceiving yourself, calling yourself righteous. You see, we have to be willing to be just. There's no such thing as a unjust righteous man. No such thing. I mean, who are you to demand justice from someone while you go about demanding justice in an unjust way? Huh? So I don't stand up here and try to talk at you. I would rather talk to you. As Mr. Cosby was, or Dr. Cosby was speaking, I was trying to listen and have a conversation with him and not be talking at him. I'm trying to think about what he's saying. That, and I'm glad that I got a chance to hear some of his, I never knew that about his childhood. And it made me have more respect for my daddy beating my rump for fighting girls. You see? I mean, I told you about that. I got in a fight with the girls next door to me, and they he told me, "You fighting girls?" I had a bloody nose, and he still beat me. He hit me in the nose with a rock. And he still took me in there and beat me for fighting with girls. He called them girls. Said, "Boy, you're fighting girls." And, I'm glad he did. For a man to beat up on a woman, brother, if you're doing that, that strips you of your manhood. It takes just a little more of your manhood from you every time you raise your hand to a woman. And if you ever run up on a man, you're going to discover that you have too much fear. You have more fear than you should, because you've been used to beating up on that which cannot defend itself against you. So don't do that. One thing that, one of the reasons I tell you don't walk around carrying a gun is because a gun gives you more confidence than you should have. Where you may have tried to avoid a violent encounter, the gun tells you, when you left home with it, the thought had to enter your mind, if anybody come up to me and act crazy with me, I'm going to blow his brains out. If you hadn't had that gun with you, and you went out there, anybody come up to me clowning, I'm going to see if I can quell it. I'm going to fight if I have to. Do you understand? So the gun automatically puts you in kill mode, where if you don't have the weapon, it puts you in a defensive mode. Do you understand? So one puts you in an offensive mode, and the other one puts you in a defensive mode. So I would much rather fight defending myself than fight because I'm the aggressor upon anyone. Because Allah loves not the aggressor. God is with you if you're defending yourself. But that means he's against the one who's attacking you. Okay, so I want you to, let's talk to the people a little bit. Any of you that's on the conference line, that means you too, if you have something you wanted to say. In the Detroit area, we want to try to get people like Mr. Cosby interested in our plight. Because if they are interested, then the next thing is, let's go over here and see what we can do about it. But always remember, when someone that has made it to what you are trying to accomplish, if they come in your presence, you should welcome them and listen much and talk little. Because if you knew as much as you claim to know, and understand as much as you claim to understand, I should say, then why hasn't that translated into a better condition. Don't spend your time trying to pull people who are above you down. Spend your time showing those who are above you that you're not looking for a handout, but just a hand, by doing something for yourself or attempting to do something for yourself. And you'll be surprised at the help that will come to you if you are trying to accomplish something that is worthwhile. So that's what we want to do. We want to change our way of thinking. We don't have to run drugs out of our community. They will leave on their own when we stop using them. When we stop desiring that, when we get the desire for that out of us, and let me tell you something, you'd be surprised what the teachings of righteousness will do for you. Many people, they wonder why that the Muslim is not afraid of the drug dealers and the fellas who, you know, the gunslingers and all them people in the black community, the robbers and stuff. It's because many of us used to be that. I mean, we know that. I mean, it's not like we was born somewhere. Man, I grew up in Watts on the streets. You know, I mean, we you know, when I was in the, you know, not only did I know about those things, you know, a lot of things I've done I'm not too proud of. You know, but the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, by giving me the knowledge of myself and of my people, of who I am and who we are as a people, and who God is and who the devil is, and how all of these, where the people came from and all of that, is certain knowledge that when you receive it, you cannot remain the same. You see? That's the difference in a child and an adult. You may physically, you have no choice if you live. From the time you were born, you are going to physically grow to maturity as a human being. And when I say as a physical form. But now, to grow to maturity as a mental and spiritual being, that you have a choice in. There are many adult forms walking around on this planet that is a child in their mind. How do you know that? Because they have not put away childish things. And as long as the things that amuse and attract you are the things that amuse and attract the child, like toys, you notice, they even talk to you like that. People who take stock in collecting, you know, many wealthy people collect cars. Like when they was a child, they collected bicycles and all this kind of thing. I mean, just as a child, to still have a child's mind. An adult mind is a mind that, Mr. Cosby said that parenting means teaching, guiding. Remember he said that? Okay. Well, if you're going to teach and guide, a child can't guide a child. In other words, the term child is a term which means immature. And an immature mind cannot guide a immature mind to maturity. Do you understand? So, we have been thinking that higher education is from freshman to, what is that, senior? Freshman to senior in college. 4 years, 8 years, depending on what you're studying. And once you reach that, you have reached the pinnacle of what this world offers as success. And yet, when you look at this state of affairs, the conditions of the earth, the children are emulating, copying what they see adults do. Not just in the black community it's happening all over the earth. What is an Army, a Navy, an Air Force, and a Marine Corps? National Guard, a police force. When you really break it down, it's just grown folks that have formed themselves into a gang to make their will happen. If everyone was truly mature, if everyone was truly an adult that is walking around here in the adult form, there would be no need for gangs. But when we can't get our will done, look at what's happening in Syria. In order to get people, at least according to what's being shown, in order to get their will to be done, they can't reason with each other, so they get their gang, and we're going to beat you down until ain't no more opposition to us that will openly express itself. Well, that's not the way. See, that's the world that's on its way out. You're being pushed out. You don't believe me? Then just look at what's happening. You see, you've seen an example in Libya. You've seen an example in Egypt. You've seen an example in Iraq. You've seen an example in many places. Look at the Soviet Union, at least the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic that used to be. You see this world coming apart. Why? Because there's a new world. And when I say a new world, I'm talking about a new world of thought. Before you can have a new civilization, you have to have a new school of thought that will produce that new civilization. Do you understand? So this is what we are here with. We are here to not present to you this one finna be destroyed. But the way we're going to conduct ourselves on the earth is what's going to be new. And what will make the earth change from the way it is now to something new. Do you understand? It's just like you'll notice. In most of what you have, you call them talk shows. You try to call in, and you can't get in. You know why? Because that's all it is. It's a talk show. And people are not actually listening to one another. Everybody's just waiting on their turn to say something. Do you understand? But when you really start talking to one another, you will discover that a lot of things that you might have thought that you needed to say are not necessary. And so if we really communicate with one another, that means back and forth. When we really start communicating with one another, then all of the things that divide us will soon be swept away, and we will be able to unite and do what is in our own best interest as a species. Do you understand? If we didn't learn nothing else from the American experience, we should have learned that when all of the people of the human family come together and begin to act as one, we will have unlimited progress. We will be able to meet and overcome whatever obstacles we face. You notice America is a melting pot, as I said, the microcosm of the whole earth. It's somebody from everywhere in America. And even with all of the excuse me, with all of the things that the immorality and the things that's going on in America right now that are wrong, yet America has been the greatest example of the potential of the people of earth. Now all we need to do is purify ourselves, get rid of all of this immoral thinking, this living for pleasure, instead of taking pleasure in living. Do you understand? Everybody's trying to find some means of escape from the hell that we have created and made out of our lives. So we look for something to occupy our time in the way of pleasure to make us forget the hell that we catch the rest of the time. And we need to get out of that. So we need to talk to each other. As you see, the scripture says the time has come that the judgment must begin at the house of God. That's right. That's true. You know, you look at the framers of the Constitution, they have, the ones who framed the Constitution, the founding fathers, now the children of those men, or the inheritors of the Constitution, have lost their ability to understand the Constitution because they were so busy purposely perverting what it originally meant, that now they don't know what it originally meant. Do you understand? And so, when you lose touch with the true understanding of God and yourself, well, that's when it's time for God to step in. Do you understand? I mean, when I look at the education that's being offered to our people now, education that's not just, I'm not just talking about the school system that is broke. I'm talking about the whole civilization. For a civilization reproduces itself in everything that you see going on in that civilization. As the old saying goes, children don't learn what you tell them, they learn what they live. Huh? Okay. You look around you, there was a time when even those who practiced immorality were willing to admit that it was immoral. Is that right? Many of you who are listening to me now, who practice, for instance, the homosexuality thing. Now, if it had not been practiced, then there would not have been any laws, even in your society, like the Uniform Code of Military Justice. There would not have been an Article 125, I think that's what it is, 125 of the UCMJ, if that kind of thing wasn't happening even in the military. So they made it against the law. Why? Because immorality is the same as what Jude says. Go to the book of Jude. Now you and I know that it's natural. When nature comes down on you, that's a natural thing. Is that right? You know, the desire of the reproductive drive is a natural drive that had to be strong in man to ensure that the species that we call man continues on this earth. Is that right? So you notice the reproductive drive does not just, and you notice, drive. It does not just happen to man, it happens to the animal kingdom too. The plants, they reproduce. Everything reproduces. Right? Okay. So that's a natural thing. Okay. It says in the book of Jude, the 10th verse, it says, "But these speak evil of those things which they understand not, that which they know not. But what they know naturally, as brute beasts. In those things they corrupt themselves. Huh? Just like people say, well, you need to be taught sex education. Didn't nobody teach no sex education when I was growing up, and we knew about that before we got grown. I mean, little boys was always, when we went to the parties, didn't nobody have to teach us what was going on. They had to watch us. Because certain things don't have to be taught to you. Do you understand? You know, it's kind of like my daddy when he I didn't find out my daddy drank until I was in my teens, man. You know, I used to see him take some Coca-Cola out there and give to the trash man, and they'd be standing up there drinking. And, you know, I saw Coca-Cola. I didn't know what they was mixing. I didn't know he was mixing it with something. But that's what they was doing, and I found that out when I got older. Out of sight, out of mind. You see, children have enough mischief on their mind without you teaching them, putting some other stuff on their mind that they never would have thought about if you hadn't brought it up. They're going to think about that eventually anyway. You know, so you didn't have to teach them that, but you started, I'm trying to show you, when you started going wrong, you didn't even have sense enough to know that you was going wrong. Because you ignored the lessons that you should have gotten from your parents before you. Now, I'm all for throwing away the bad advice of parents. Parents do a lot of things that's wrong. But at the same time, they do a lot of things that's right. And the things that they did that was right, like beating your behind and straightening you up and making sure that you knew that you wasn't grown and you wasn't going to live in their house and act like it. You're going to be in here at a certain time. You're going to get your homework. You're going to do the things you're going to clean your room. You're going to do, you're a child, you're going to act like a child. Now that wasn't wrong. To make you be a child when you are a child is a good thing. That way when you grow out of childhood, if you was a child when you was a child, then when you get grown, you'll be grown when you be grown. But if you steal their childhood from them, when they grow up, they're going to want to go back and get what you took. Now that he's a man, he's trying to go back and get his childhood because he think he missed something. And he did. But he would have known that it wasn't about nothing if you had to let him experience being a child. Do you understand? I was held back from doing so many things that one of my words was, I'll be glad when I get grown. And when I did get grown, I was glad. But I also understood that I shouldn't have been in no hurry once I got out on my own. Because now I understood that if I hit the switch in the house, them lights wasn't just coming on. You know, them lights had a price. You see, food didn't grow in the cabinet. If you don't put none in there, ain't gonna be none there. And then I understood that they used to, you know, the older people used to say, look, I pay the cost to be the boss here. That was their saying, you know. And I understood that. When I had to pay the cost for everything that came in, nobody gonna buy me no shoes or no clothes or nothing else if I didn't go out and work and get me some money and do that. You see? But I accepted that responsibility. But it made me to understand my parents in a much better way, because now I was becoming their peer, part of their peer group. And not just looking at them through the eyes of a child. Now I was looking at them through the eyes of their fellow adult. Maybe have more respect for them. But anyway, I'm going to let those of you who may have something that I said I would let you call up. The number is 313-868-0351, 868-0342, or 868-4336. In the conference room, you can unmute your line by pressing *6. Now, I want you to know that, we're not the people who think that we know everything. But it's not important that you know everything. That's what makes us need each other. What's important is that you understand what you know, so that you will understand if someone else may know better in that area than you. Because if what you know is what you call better, when I say what you know, I mean what you understand. If your understanding is better than the other person, then it will not hurt you to listen to what that person has to say, so that you can reason with them and show them where they have adopted an understanding that is not the best understanding. If your understanding is lesser than the person doing the speaking, then you should be happy, because now you know that what you have is insufficient, and now someone has offered you something that's better. And so now you have grown, if you have sense enough to accept what has been offered. Do you understand? But we should test all of the things that we have. We should test our knowledge. That's what did God say to the devil about testing? He asked the devil, he said, have you considered my servant Job over there? And he told the devil to go and test him. Test him for who? You can't impute sin to God. God ain't going to tempt you to sin. He's not going to come to you and try to get you to go do wrong. He told you don't do that. But he made somebody who naturally go wrong, and then tell them to go over there. Now go over there and see if he's going to do what I say, or going to do other than what I say. Do you understand? And that's wise on his part. The devil is the enemy to man. He's not the enemy to God. There ain't nothing God made that can be his enemy. Everything is Muslim to him. But when it comes to you and me, well, we choose sometimes to be disobedient. Do you understand? And so he wants to get that out of us. He wants to perfect us. As Jesus said to Peter, Satan desires to sift you as wheat. Yeah. Anything that ain't right, he desired to bring it out of you. Let you see yourself. How in the world you going to change yourself if you got a mirror that won't show you nothing but the good that you got there, won't show you your nappy head or whatever? You know, you want a mirror that's true. So it show you that your shirt tail is, your pants is on backwards or whatever. Well, show me that so I can straighten myself out. But the people, now I know y'all not going to accuse me of not letting nobody talk. Now I let people talk. I want to hear from you now. When I'm trying to get you not to call, then here you come. So it don't make no difference who you are. You can be black, white. It don't make no difference. I want to hear from the people. I remember, you know, a lot of people didn't pay no attention to it. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even though he did not open the temple to Caucasian people unless he was in there. Now, if you notice at Savior's days, you see Caucasian people sitting up out there. As long as the messenger was in there, he had no problem with that. But he didn't want them just hanging out in the temples because he knew how we are. We used to being a slave, and we was used to being a slave to Caucasian people. And so whether we admit it or not, that's one of the reasons why we act so bigoty and stuff when they come around. We trying to convince ourselves that we ain't scared of them no more and that they ain't over us no more. But if you really felt that way, you don't have to do all of that. You know, and so, you know, but that's the way we were before. But now, you know, you notice I don't be trying to flex and go on because Caucasian people is around there. I talk to him like I do anybody. So I'm not intimidated by him. So that's because the teachings that Allah has put in me have made me see everybody for what they are and who they are. You see, I have respect for people. You know. And, you know, so, you know, I get nervous sometimes talking with people because I'm trying to be careful not to offend people, especially if they are my guests. So you don't want to invite someone into your home to offend them. Then that makes you appear to be uncivilized. And so I try to be careful not to offend my guests. And now did any one of you have something that you wanted to say or ask me? I see somebody got their phone off mute. You have something you wanted to say? Wa alaikum assalam.
This community forum exactly is open for this discussion on things that's going on inside our community. Is that what this is about?
Well, actually, it's about bringing people. I mean, if I got to, you know, I mean, we done had all kind of forums that people sitting down discussing what's going on in our community. It's plain to see what's going on in our community. The community forum is to bring people in there that have something of worth that they could share with us. That, like you noticed, I was listening while Mr. Cosby was talking. You know, and that's what I want you and I to learn to do. Our problem is we just want to be seen and heard, and that haven't gotten us any place. I mean, you got everybody and his brother telling us what's wrong and telling us what we need to do, but nobody doing anything.
We took it on the very lowest level, you know, of course, but...
And you go again. That's what I'm talking about. See, that's what I'm talking about. See, we keep saying what could be done and what could be. I didn't bring nobody in here to tell us what could be done. I brought him in here to open up a line of communication because if he want to help us do something, he got the means to do so.
That's the point I was trying to get to.
Well, yeah, I mean that has already. That's my point. I mean, I don't want to tell. I'm not inviting people in here just to be talking. I want people like Dr. Cosby and other influential black men and women to see that when they're talking to me, you're not at the cemetery. The only thing you get when you hang around something that's dead, it starts thinking. And the more you hang around it, pretty soon, it stinks and stinks and stinks so bad, you got to bury it. And you look at the black community when it comes to people who try to come and talk with us, you know why most of our people won't help us is because our attitude stinks, man. The one who doing the least, talking the loudest and the most. And someone who could help, we so filled with the wrong kind of envy and jealousy that we run them off so we can still look big. And that, we like to look big amongst each other, every time you look up, you've got some little group of black people somewhere giving somebody an award. See, we on the bottom of civilization passing out awards.
Trying to emulate.
I don't see no reason for us to be passing out no award when we ain't got nothing. I mean, you look at the black family tree. You got 40 million black people. The last count I heard of it, approximately 40 million black people in America. That's a pretty big family tree.
Yes,
and if you look at all of the limbs on that tree, you find one segment of it, entertainers, that's producing fruit. And the whole big old tree, sports and entertainment, some kind of entertainment, is the only limbs on our tree that's got something going. The educators can't take no credit for nothing because we ain't set up no schools. The medical people can't say they got some fruit going because they ain't got not one black hospital that we built and run. The architects and whatnot can't say nothing because we don't have one suburb, one city that we build and maintain. So the problem is we got a tree that got a whole lot of leaves on it, and believe me, we done wrote some books. Every time we look up, somebody giving us a book. And we got all these leaves on here and no fruit. So the thing to do is to prune the tree. If it's got all these leaves on it, that means it do got some potential. But you got these things that's sapping. Look at all these churches and things that's in our communities while the drugs is, every time you look up, somebody's building a church. For what?
Even some mosques, same thing.
So they can go at yes, I ain't leaving it out. They got mosques going up all over everywhere. Talking about building some place to worship God. as though God needs you to build him a house. People walking around here in poverty, living, some of them sleeping on the streets. The only thing these people want to do is put up a church or a mosque or a synagogue or something so they can pass a bucket and get your money. Gonna cook the rest of the little off of the bone. Come out giving to God. You ain't giving nothing to God. You giving it to that robbing preacher, that robbing imam, that robbing, all these people and robbed you. And you blessing them. So I don't care if they listening. Just like when they let people hang up on try to make some bad out of it. When Mr. Cosby said something about, you got no business going out living in kind of conditions you living in and going out paying $100 and something for a pair of tennis shoes for your son or daughter. You ain't got that kind of money. You can't afford that. Then they get mad at it for telling them what's in their own best interest.
The truth hurts.
No, the truth only hurts those who are guilty and want to do something contrary to the truth.
There you go.
There ain't no such thing as medicine hurting people. Good medicine heals people.
That's true.
That they have to give you may hurt. But the medicine that they put in you, it makes you feel better. If you can keep it in you. So it made me very happy that our people, that's the kind of audience I'm starting to get them. They want to hear what somebody has to say. I mean, if we can show people, you remember the scripture says, whosoever shall humble themselves shall be exalted. When we make people like Mr. Cosby and Morgan Freeman and Aretha Franklin and Barry Gordy and all of those wealthy black people that have resources, when we make them feel safe to come and talk to us, and that we're not going to be whining and begging or trying to pull them down or ride them, if they see us come together. And that's the one thing, that's the reason I adopted Detroit. I have been treated better and accepted better in the city of Detroit than any place that I haven't been in this country. Don't ask me why I'm in Mississippi. It's another reason for that I don't care to get into right now. But Detroit has big potential because the people in Detroit have an enlightenment that is innate because of its history. When I say innate, it means it's something that don't have to be taught. It's something that's just there in the general thinking of people in their subconscious. A man like Coleman Young helped make that happen. And the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad being first there helped make that happen. You see? And so it just needs a little cultivating. You heard Mr. Cosby say how much Detroit means to him. Well, yeah. A whole lot of people got their start in Detroit. Now, if we stop insulting people, it's an insult for me or you to call ourselves, here you talking to a man who got billions of dollars or the potential to garner them, and you trying to tell him how to conduct it? No. That man will leave your presence because he recognizes that you are like a little dog behind a fence barking at a stranger that has no sense of who it is that is in front of you there. Now, when we humble ourselves, when it comes to certain arenas, we all are children. Now, there are some arenas that you and I go in that we are not children. We are the adult in that arena. But when it comes to, it's just like the entertainment industry. Mr. Watkins and Mr. Cosby, they could relate to each other a whole lot better than I could relate to that industry. That's why I made sure before I got out of there that I had them to talk to each other. You see? I want to see us make it. It's time that we start recognizing one another's ability and get out the way when it's time to get out the way, and let the one with the ability get out there and handle the business, especially if that one is your friend. Because friends don't show themselves to be friends until they find you in need, and then their deeds show you that they are your friend. A friend in the time of need is a friend towards you with his deeds. Now, if Mr. Cosby or any of those others who are in that position that they are in decide that they want to help Detroit or any place else, and all we have to do is do it in one place. But the first thing we need to show them in Detroit that, hey, we got sense enough to understand the principle of unity. Let's start doing something. Let's start something. Well, why do you think I wanted you to get with me and help me to make millionaires? Are you aware of the kind of people that would attract if they just saw us putting our little dollars and nickels together and getting out of that old thing, I ain't going to make that nigga rich, and we turn around and say, I'm going to make me some rich black people. Do you know what all of them other wealthy black people would do? Like Mr. Cosby and Miss Winfrey and Mr. Freeman? Did you see that? Look over here what these poor people are doing. They helping one another. Man, we should have been doing it. Let's get over there and get with them. What we need to get started. And when our president said that he needed $450 billion to put Americans back to work, rebuilding up this infrastructure, we should be able to step up to the plate and say, forget the Congress. They don't want to help you, Mr. President. Here's the money. And they would get changed. And they would also have to change their view of looking at us as a people. But we too busy. And you know what the first question I got asked? Well, who gonna be first?
Well, I think that one of the biggest setbacks in dealing in this community and trying to build businesses and work with people is in, like you say, who's first, all that, but the communication, and then everybody wants to be the leader and nobody wants to follow. And I think you said something to that effect.
I've been saying that for the past, as long as I've been on the air with y'all, I've been telling you that leadership is not just telling people what to do. Leadership is understanding what must be done and knowing how to find the one who's best capable to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to do. And then oftentimes leading, in order to truly lead, you have to know when not to.
Excuse me, Senator.
Yes.
Time is up, sir.
All right. I look forward to talking with you all again. Promise you we will always have one that is celebrity or whatnot, because I can't make them come, but I can invite them, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I'll talk with you on these things next Sunday. Let's get out the way. Remember, the conference room, I'll be in there again at 2:30, actually a half hour from now. And until then, may Allah bless us all, keep us safe and in our right mind. Allah